What's up, everybody? Okay, so today we're just going to make something easy peasy. We are going to make a little baby quilt. I'm just going to do a simple 4-patch. So we've got these fabrics I've been using, and we're going to use them up and make a little 4-patch, and we may do something else with that, but that's the plan so far. So we've got these. We're going to use them. Hey Dallas, what's up, buddy? And we're going to use these. So Dallas, what size are the baby quilts you use for your charity? Because that's what this is going to be for. I got a bunch of extra leftover fabric, and we're going to make a couple of tops. And Mr. Dallas Reed is involved in an awesome charity that makes and donates blankets for children and all kinds of awesomeness. So we are going to do something and get those to him. Now I got to adjust my machine, so we're probably going to have a little bit of craziness here in the beginning because I had to adjust it yesterday doing the free motion, and I'm just now getting it going. So we will see how it stitches. Hey Mary. Okay, not looking too bad. Maybe a little less on the top tension. And I'll try it again. I'm not too worried about it for piecing, but we'll get her back to normal. .42 by 42. Okay, that's what it was. Okay, so the nice thing about, I've cut these squares at 6.5 with the, I knew 42 was one of the dimensions. So these are 6.5 squares. They'll finish at 6, so we can do 7 by 7, which will make a nice size quilt top. Okay, a little bit more here. All right, I think we're about where it's at. All right, I'm just piecing, so I'm not going to worry too much, but I want to kind of get it back where it needs to be. No, we're going to go with that. Maybe a little bit bigger stitches. Okay, so we're just going to run a couple of these, and I'm going to do a little bit of chain piecing. And we'll knock out a couple 4-patches and make it nice and easy. Now I'm using my walking foot. You don't have to use a walking foot for piecing. I just use it because it's kind of just a universal foot to me. So we're going to do these and get them knocked out. Why do I have the walking foot on? Just because it's a 1/4 inch foot, and the other one that it comes with has a little lip right here, and sometimes I've noticed it's getting caught on the fabric. And it's just a preference. I mean, it's just a, I don't know. I mean, it doesn't bother it. So, might as well. And if you guys have the room, I found that having an ironing board close to your workstation or work area really makes it nice. And if you don't have the room to have a big ironing board, I've got a little pad that I made, and it was really cheap to do, and we'll do a video on how to do that, because you can pretty much do it with leftover stuff. So, and it makes it nice. It makes it nice to be able to iron your blocks as you go. So, now some of these aren't exactly the flattest they can be, but that's all right. When I pop the seams open, we'll iron them all out. Okay, so 1, 2, 3. I'm going to go ahead and snip these now instead of leaving them together. So we're just going to do a simple 4-patch, and I'm going to have the pattern just alternating, you know, just something simple. And I think it'll turn out cute. And then we'll get a back on it. There we go, we'll do 2 more. Okay. So when you are pressing those, you don't want to like cram your iron down and shove. You're not ironing like you're ironing your shirt. You're just pressing the fabric. So always keep that in mind, because you will start putting blocks together and be like, man, I cut them really good. What happened? Well, what happened is you stretched your fabric while you were pressing. And that's really important, especially when you start cutting on the bias and you have bias edges that are already stretchy. You don't want to stretch it anymore. Walking foot sounds squeaky. I wonder if you iron or if you oil them, because it sounds like it might need some. Okay. Okay, so bias on a fabric. The fabric is woven this way and this way. So if I pull like this, there's not a lot of stretch. If I pull this way, there's a little bit more stretch, but not much. On the bias, which is the diagonal, that really stretches. That's because of the way the fabric is woven. It's woven up and down. So there's not a lot of give this way. There's not a whole lot of give that way. But if you pull diagonally, you're like spreading the weave. So that is what is meant by the bias edge. And when you cut like half square triangles and stuff like that, where you're cutting across the fabric like that diagonally, it'll stretch. Okay, so what are we doing today? We're just going to make a simple baby quilt. We've got these fabrics here, little Indians and bears and hedgehogs. So we're making these blocks, and then the other block is going to be made with this snail fabric. A bunch of little snails running across. So that's what we're making. And we're going to just do a simple 4-patch. So we're going to do alternating 4-patch blocks. Like I said, this one isn't fancy. This is an easy, no-brainer. You know, if you're a beginner, this is a great little project. Everything doesn't have to be big and involved. I mean, one of my favorite quilts I've made so far is a patchwork quilt. Simple 6-inch squares. Made it for my wife in purples and whites and lavenders, and she loves it, and it's one of my favorite ones, and it's the most simple one I've made so far. So it doesn't always have to be busy, and it doesn't always have to be super involved. I always say make the best kind that you can make. So if all you can make is a simple patchwork, then make that, but make it as good as you can make it. Because a nicely done simple patchwork is going to look better than a project that is really involved and didn't turn out quite well. But also, with that being said, you're never going to improve your quilting, and you're never going to get better if you don't try and be more adventurous. And who cares if it looks like crap the first time or second time or whatever, because each time you do it, you're going to learn. Okay. How many do we got here? 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so we got enough. We're going to make one more, and then we'll put these little 4 patches together. So for the new people in the group and anybody new joining us, I get a lot of questions of what should I get when I first start out. To me, what makes a big difference, one good pair, full size, you can see the size of them, full size scissors for cutting fabric. Then get you a little baby pair of snips, okay? See the difference? These little guys here, these are great for getting in and snipping thread. You can do it with these, but you got to be careful because you stand a greater chance of whacking your fabric. So I always recommend just a simple pair of snips and bigger fabric shears. and put them up. Don't cut anything else with them, even paper. You wouldn't think paper would do a lot to your scissors. They'll go dull so fast, and there's nothing more aggravating than trying to do something simple with a dull pair of scissors. Now, we're not being too technical on this. My corners don't match. I don't really care. You know, it's not going to the fair to get a ribbon. We're going to give it to Dallas, and it's going to get to some little baby that needs something to snuggle with, and it's going to be drug around, and I guarantee you that baby's not going to care if my corners are matching up or not. I think a lot of times that is where people overthink. You know, oh, it's not perfect. Well, who cares? I've never given somebody a quilt and they give it back because my seam allowance wasn't all the way proper, or, you know, I sewed a wrinkle into the fabric by accident, or any of that stuff. Nobody cares about that. When you start getting to where you want to put them in the county fair and be judged, well, that's when you got to step up your A game, because you're asking somebody to judge your work, and they will do exactly that. Hey now, my wife actually gets on me about using the kitchen scissors for cutting things. And she knows not to use my fabric scissors. She's nice about that. Gotta turn my foot pedal. I sew with it sideways. Okay, so now all we're doing is we're lining these up, but we want to line them up to where it's like this. So we're just doing kind of a alternating, and we're going to chain, and you know what, I didn't do enough of that to do another block. Now we'll pop these bad boys open, and I'm just going to finger press this middle seam here. Finger pressing is just exactly that, running your finger down, and you can feel, when you set this down, you'll be able to feel if your seam is running the right way. So lay it down and just give it a little press. So hi for everyone that is joining us. Awesome. We're just making a little baby quilt, a simple little 4-patch out of some 6.5-inch blocks. So once they're all sewed together, they will make 6-inch blocks. And a good little size is 42 inches by 42 inches. So that would be 7 over and 7 down. So what I'm going to do though is I'm going to sew and do 3 and then put a border on this. So that's where we will get our extra from. So let me get some likes or love or happy faces for the people that sew with their shoes off. I can't sew with shoes on. Just can't do it. I can drive with shoes on, but when I'm quilting, my shoes are off. Shoes off, machine on, ready to rock. Okay. Well, that's going to bug me, but that's all right. We won't be too finicky about it. Okay. Wow, what the hell? I done popped my thread again. One thing I've noticed is this thing has an automatic thread snipper, and sometimes it cuts it just ever so short, and if you move, then your thread will come out. So I've got to get in the habit. Now I got to turn my machine. I got to get in the habit of taking and pulling my work out just a little bit, so that way it makes a little bit of a thread tail, and it won't do that. And there we go. Put it back in. I got to turn my machine a little bit because that way I can see the eye. Alright, so I'm turning the wheel to pull your bottom thread back up. Always spin your wheel towards you. Always towards you at the top. Okay? That's pretty much with any machine. And that'll rotate your needle down, and I'll rotate your needle down, and it'll pull that bobbin thread up. And now I got to pull a little bit of it out. There we go. Okay, y'all. Now let's get back to what we were doing. Alright. Okay, now we're golden. Snip it off, and then throw your thread behind you. Now, if you've seen when my thread come out, what I did, a lot of people will lick the thread to straighten it out. Don't do that, because what you're doing is you're wetting the thread, and you make them fibers expand, and then it makes it harder to go into the needle. So what you want to do, put a little spit on your finger, put that on the needle, and then when it gets close, the moisture on that needle, your spit will suck that needle through the eye of the needle. Just a little tip I was told. I was told by quite a few people that see me do that. Hey, stop licking your thread to straighten it out. You're making that harder on yourself. Alright. There we go. Do it that way. Pull it out a little bit. Okay. Finger pressing these again. And I'm kind of pulling with my wrist a little bit. You know, flatten that seam out. When I'm pushing, I'm making sure that my seam is laying down flat. Okay. So, now you see how quick that was. Alright, and that's the first row, and we only need to do 2 more. Okay, so now we're going to alternate. So now the second row is going to be this block on the outside and that block in the center. Okay, won't that look cute when it's done? Alright, so I'm going to set this aside. And there we go. And So that's what I'm doing, and I'm just going to chain piece a bunch because it goes really quickly. So I've got another one here. Oh no, that's our test block. So I've got another completed block. I'll leave that there. Now, it's easiest if you have the workspace, and you know, I know a lot of people just sew at their table, kitchen table, and that's cool. I still do that. I happen to luck out and have a little bit of room to quilt, but for the last 3 years I just did it at my kitchen table. So efficiency is always key. You always want to keep a clean work area as best you can, you know, and try to use your space efficiently. So with this here, we're going to do a bunch of these. So I am I'm going to lay the stack right here next to me. Bring this thread out again. What the heck? There we go. I'm going to lay this stack next to me, and we're going to burn through some more of these. So now I know for the second row, I'm going to need 1, 2, 3. So I'm going to need 4 sets of these pair here. So that's what we'll do. And now with this fabric here, it doesn't matter really, there's not really upside downside. Now what I mean by that is the pattern, okay? There's no upside or downside because the print goes every which way. Now obviously when people say right sides together, they're talking about put the printed side to the printed side, okay? Now, I know some of this is repetitive and some of this is duh, you know, for the seasoned quilters, but, you know, keep in mind we got a lot of new people. So we want to be nurturing and we want to be educational and informative because we were all new people at one time. And we want them to be able to join in the fun with us. Okay. Well, thank you, Melanie. I've only had this for a while now, but I am totally in love with it. I'm so glad I made that leap and bought this. It's a very simple, basic machine. It only does straight stitch. But as a quilter and mainly a piecer, that's all I need is a straight stitch. I don't do a lot of I don't do a lot of other stuff. So a straight stitch is fine. This is a Juki TL 2000. It's right around the 600, 650 range, depending on where you find it. Amazon will probably be cheaper than going to your local dealer. Now, I tried going to my local dealer because I believe in shopping local, but when I told him the price that I found this for, even he said, I can't match that. You might want to just get that online, but I'll bring it to him for servicing when it needs serviced. And that's the importance of shopping local, shopping at your local fabric store whenever you can. You know, I know everybody can't afford it, but when you can, try and give them your business because, you know, what are you going to do when you need some advice or you need help? Nobody at Walmart knows what the hell they're doing. Okay, so we're going to slap these. And then what I'm doing, I'm putting it wrong side down. And I'm running the iron across right here where I stitched because I want to relax that. I want to relax that seam. And then I'm flipping it over. And then I'm giving it a press. And that one's a little wonky, but like I said, we're not crying. Some kid will get this and love it, and he's not going to care whether it's straight, crooked, or whatever. He's going to drag it around and be happy he's got a blankie. So, the other thing too, you always hear people say, press to the dark side. That's what that means. See my seam? It's flipping over the dark instead of up here. Because, if you can see that with the light in the background, if I was to put the seam down here, then you would see it right here. There'd be like a little shadow. So always press. When people say press to the dark side, they mean flip this seam towards your darker fabric. Okie dokie. And that's what that means. Now another thing. We'll learn another term. When they say nest your seams, see how this one's going this way? The one behind it is going the other way. So my seams are going like this. Now, why that matters is because if you could feel this, this feels nice and flat. See that? Seam this way, seam that way. Now they're laying nice and flat. If they were to both go the same direction, you'd have a hump. And whereas a simple quilt like this, that isn't going to matter much. But when you start making quilts that have a lot of intersections, then that will matter. It's a good habit for good quilt construction. And I don't always worry about that either. You know, it just depends on the project. Thank you for everyone watching. I enjoy doing these lives, and you know, I want to share what it is I know, and I'm not the most seasoned quilter, you know, I'm still learning. But the idea of these is to show other people that are just trying to start out that it's okay. You will get there. You will make mistakes, because we all make mistakes. And I like doing these little lives because when you watch a show online or you watch a show somewhere else, you know, that's already pre-recorded and edited, and you never see the mistakes. Everything's always perfect. Well, guess what? That's not really how it works. It'd be nice. It'd be nice if it was perfect all the time, but that ain't the real world. Do you use your walking foot all the time? No, not really. When I had my other machine, I hardly ever used it. But with this new machine, the walking foot is such a nice foot. It's nice and heavy, and it works great. So I'll just leave it on there. It's not going to hurt anything. At least that I know. But like I just said, I'm kind of new, so maybe there's a reason I shouldn't be using it, but I like it. It has a nice 1/4 inch seam to it, and it pulls the top and bottom fabric at the same time, so it's nice and even piecing. Yeah, it's nice for when you're using thicker fabric as well. Okay, so now we need to make our center snail block. So we'll do this bad boy real quick, and then we'll get these sewn together, and we'll have 2 of the 3 rows done. And man, that didn't take long, did it? Boom. Now the only thing I didn't show you is when I was cutting this fabric, because you know everybody can cut their fabric. I just used a 6.5 inch ruler, buzzed it out one way to long strips, and then cut those strips again. There we go. How do I find the time? Well, I drive at night, so I come home and sleep from like 7 to 11 or something, and then I get up for a little while, and normally on the days I'm down here like now, my wife babysits her sister's kid, so I come down here for a little while, I do this, and then I'll go back here in a little while and take a nap, and then I'll get up at like 7 o'clock tonight and go into work and drive a semi truck all night. So this is like my little kumbaya time. Now my wife and I kind of have a, it's like a little setup. I do this, and then when I get up from my nap, she runs away for a little while, gets away from the kids before I go into work, and then about 2 hours after I've left for work, it's the kids' bedtime. So okay, so now the only thing with this block here is I don't want to line it up in such a way that I've got the 2 lights together, okay? We are going to make sure that it's lined up like that, where it's dark and light. And now on the first row, our snails were to the outside, okay? Little hedgehogs and whatnot are in the center. So this row is going to be the opposite. We're going to do the snails in the center and put the hedgehogs and whatnot to the outside. Okay. Now, as you can see, I mean, you guys are seeing this in real time. This isn't taking very long. You know, and if you got a niece, nephew, grandbaby, whatever, you know, this little pattern here is pretty simple, and I've only used 4 fabrics. You know, it doesn't have to be a ton of different fabrics to make it look decent. Okay. again, I'm just finger pressing. There we are. So now I will well, thank you, Esther. I try not to be like nobody but me. I gotta tell you, being a straight guy truck driver that loves hunting and fishing and cars and all the typical guy stuff, and then you throw quilting in there on top of it, you know, you got to be willing to just do you, because at some point you got to not care what other people think. I got buddies that give me crap all the time. Just something for them to jab at me about. But most of them think it's pretty cool. You know, there's not too many, not a whole lot of dudes out here quilting, but we're out here and we do some damn good work. One of the guys that was on here earlier, I don't know if he's still with us, but Dallas Reed, he's a heck of a quilter. Scott Beaver, he's a buddy of mine. He's an awesome male quilter. So we don't have many in our group, but they're here. Now when I'm going, of course I wasn't too fussy with this, so I'm lining it up the best I can. And what I'm doing is taking and pulling over this bottom fabric just to get it lined up a little bit. Okay, so we're making progress here. Now how's that? We'll move y'all out a little bit. It's not looking too bad. Pretty cute. So we'll do one more row. You know, even if we turn it that way. Yeah, we'll do one more row. And so now what do we need? We need 2 snails and then one of our other ones. So like I said, it's not that hard. I mean, it's going pretty quick, right? So now you guys are on a rolly office chair. How's that for a camera dolly, huh? I got my tripod sitting on a rolly office chair. Now, see how this is kind of walked over? That's a little bit much. You want to go ahead and straighten that out. Okay? It always helps. And some people will starch. You can starch if you want. I don't generally starch. I normally use I use good cotton fabric for the most part, and you know, there's nothing wrong with going to Joann's or Walmart and using fabric. It's just I don't normally do that. The quilts I make are generally ones that I want to give to people and have them last forever and ever and ever, amen. But with that being said, there is nothing wrong with Joann fabric. Matter of fact, that patchwork quilt I was telling you, that was my favorite one I've done, is all made from Joann fabric fat quarters that I bought when they were on sale. So I look at it like this. If you're going to make a wall hanging or something that's going to go on the door, you don't need top of the line fabric, do you? Because it's not going to be worn and torn and stuff like that. So use whatever you can get away with. Now, where it comes in for me for quilting fabric is if you're going to make what they call a utility quilt, so something that's going to be used fairly regularly, it's going to go on the couch, it's going to go on somebody's chair. You know, I probably wouldn't go out and invest a bunch of money in expensive fabric. I would probably do it a little bit cheaper, make it as nice as I could, you know, for a cheaper budget. Now, if you're going to make something for your bedroom, and it's going to go on your bed, and it's going to match your other fancy shit that's in your house, and whatever, you know, probably make it a little bit nicer, because it's going to be for you, and it's going to be well taken care of. So that's kind of how I look at things. Everything doesn't have to be the expensive fabric, because sometimes it's overkill for your project you're making. Thank you, JoJo. So if you guys are liking this, give me some thumbs up here. Let me know what you guys think about this simple little 4-patch. Not very hard, and it's coming together really quickly. So we'll pop these two blocks together real fast, and then put them the last row, and the last thing will be to put a border on it, and that won't take long at all. Okay, so once again, we're gonna do the opposite colors. That's really the only pattern, I guess, if you want to call it a pattern, that I was going with, is just opposite colors, just to make it look nice. Boom. There we go. Yes, you are correct, Valerie. And it's a nice heavy little machine too. Probably isn't one that you want to pick up and carry back and forth to the quilt shop or quilting classes or something like that. Okay, so we are going to press these open, get them nice and flat. Now I'm gliding over it. Once again, I'm not smashing it down. I'm not pushing it. Okay, so I've already got a handy dandy middle square together. Now, what I'm going to look at, because there's a pattern that's kind of emerging here, and I want to keep with it. So, I want to make sure on this bottom here that we do it like this. Okay, and then have the middle, I'm doing this upside down and backwards. There we go. So I want it to be that way. Okay. And if that didn't make sense, it'll make sense here in just a second. Oh baby, we are almost done. God, this didn't take long at all. Okay, so same thing. Same thing, we got the light square here, so we want to make sure that we're putting the dark snails next to it instead of light. So that way, even though we're using different fabrics, overall we're still doing the light, dark, light, dark. Okay, y'all. I'm going to pop this open. And then we are going to join these two rows. There we go. Join these two rows right here. Is that right? Yeah, no, looks right. Or is it this way? See, you always got to pay attention. I think it was this way. You know what? It's going to be that way. And if it's not, we're going to get out our handy dandy seam ripper. But I believe that's the right way. Press your foot down. Let's hit the gas and get this done. Move y'all back in and roly-poly you over a little bit. There we go. And this one doesn't adjust like that other one. Try to get the light out of the way. There we go. That window's not always the best. You would think as much sewing as I do, I just make some damn curtains, right? There we go. All right. Dun, dun, dun. Moment of truth, y'all. Oh, yeah. Oh, dag. What did we do there? You know what? I'm going to leave it. I don't care. See, you got to do that sometimes. Say, I'm going to leave it, and who cares? Two lights together on the last row. Anyway, that's what we're looking at, y'all. Here. Oh. So there we go. And what kills me, but I don't care, we're not going to worry about it, is how this red travels all the way up and then stops right here. Ooh. But like I said, you know what? That's alright, because it's going to be for a little kid to drag around and get crap on and spill a sippy cup on. So we ain't worried about that. That's where the quilt police come in. We ain't the quilt police. So, from another project, I'll get y'all back over here. I got these little strips that also go with this set. See, little cute little hedgehogs. So that's going to be the border. Why not, right? That looks fun. Oh man, and I found something too. Hold on. Hold the press. Where'd it go? There it is. My seam allowance got funky on me. Now I got a hole in my patchwork. So what are we gonna do? We're gonna come over here and buzz through it again real quick. And since I'm starting and do a couple up downs. There we go. Okay. So now, these strips are with a fabric, or what you will hear referred to as waff sometimes, which is just, people mean cut it the width of the fabric. So 2, 4, 6, you know what, that's only 36 inches. Hold the phones, y'all. So we got to do one more row of 2 by 2. No, we're not. No, we're not. They're not going to be exactly. Anybody else have random thoughts like I do? I'm sure you do. You know what you want to do until you start doing it, and then you got 40 other ideas that are like jumping through your head. Okay, we've made it this far. Let's slap a border on here. And we can be done with this top. This isn't going to take very long either, because all I'm doing is racing around the edge. But I did notice. Alright. We're going to come out a little bit. Now, the other process that I did not do, okay, is I did not go back and trim this up and square it off and all that. That would be the next step with your quilt top. Trim it up, then put your borders on. But, like I said, this is just a drag around blankie. And I'm not measuring, I just know these are long enough, so we're going to sew till we get to the end and cut the edge off. Now I'm going to back stitch it a little bit and pop that bad boy off. Okay, so not going to worry about pressing the whole thing right now, but I want it to be nice and flat right there, and I'm going to come and do this other side. So you do this side, and then that side, and that side. That's how I do it. Y'all can do it however, and depending on how you do it, it's going to look a little different. Now what I just ironed out there was the fold from where the fabric was folded. I don't want to sew that crease in. Okay. Alright, y'all. Good Lord. You gotta pay attention. I went way off the reservation on that one. Look at that. Good Lord. There we go. Alright, take two, y'all. Let's try that again. I guess we'll scoot it in a little more. What the heck was I doing? There we go. So now what you got to watch for is when you get a big bulk like this, you got to keep moving it with you because it will drag and it will make your project uneven. Now I apologize for the circular saw in the background. Doing some work in another office here. All right. So I'm going to roughly trim. Going to slap this border on, and then we got one more and this top is done. And I think it looks really good. And it wasn't that hard to make. You know, what are we at? 30, 40 minutes, maybe an hour? Can't be that long. There we go. See, now this is falling off the table. So now it's trying to pull my work. So I need to, I'm going to put our other border up here. I need to get this to where it's going to lay right and not want to pull my work or wrinkle under it. And go a little bit and then get her straightened out again. And that's how you do it, just a little at a time. I'm trying on this to not stretch. I just want it to lay. So we'll snip here. That little extra snip, and then we got our last border. Last border, y'all. Heck yeah. Okay. Make sure I got the long piece, not one of the scraps. Alright, so in 2 minutes, or 10 seconds, however long, we will see the finished product. So a couple stitches in, get it secured, and then get it nice and smooth, and then rock and roll. Same thing, we'll move it, move our work, flatten it back out. Okay, y'all. Let's see it. It's not a left-handed machine. I'm using the front camera on my cell phone, so it makes it look funky. This is my left hand. It's really weird. This is my left hand. This is my right hand. I don't know how it does it, but it does it. Okay. Yeah, anytime you're shooting with your front-facing camera, it does that. Okay. So that's what we're looking at, y'all. Here, let's bear with me here. That turned out cute. Do. Let's flip that around. Nobody wants to see my mug. I'm upside down now. There we go. How awesome is that? Looks great, I think. Cute little hedgehogs. Snails. So now, the next thing we will do is, now that your top's done, you're going to want to iron it, press it, whatever you want to call it. And make it nice and flat as can be. And then I'm going to trim this to where it's the width of a regular fabric. Okay, and then we're going to go down the length. And I am going to make this a pillowcase quilt, and that will probably be something we do, probably not tomorrow, but maybe like on Wednesday or something. We'll finish this up. So there you go. So that didn't take long. You've seen the whole process. The only thing you did not see was me cutting the fabric, which, you know, excuse me, let's tilt up a little bit. Okay, so the only thing you didn't see was me cutting the fabric, but we can all cut fabric. However you want to cut it, cut it. The important part is that your blocks are symmetrical. So yeah, that's an easy pattern. I used 4 different fabrics for the main blocks, alternated the colors, and then just put a nice border around it. Ideally, I wouldn't be using a white border, but you know, it's all good. Something to consider when you're putting your borders and binding on is that's where they're going to mostly be grabbed and dragged and up against the face and so on. So darker colors generally do better because they're not going to stain as easily. But it is what it is. So everyone, thanks for joining me. If you enjoyed it, give me a thumbs up or a heart or whatever. Let me know you were here and enjoyed me doing this, and I'll keep doing them. So have a good day, and can you announce times ahead of time? I don't want to miss a live. I will try to do that. Yeah, I haven't been very good about putting times up. I can do it like a half hour ahead of time. I generally don't know. I just come in here, and whenever I have time to come work on something, then I try to bring you guys into my workspace with me. So I'll give you a heads up. Hey, I'll be coming live in like a half hour or something like that. So anyway, if you can't catch me live, you can always watch the replay. And so yeah, thank you guys. Have a good one.